What do billionaires, presidents, and royalty have in common? For years, they orbited around Jeffrey Epstein, a man whose name is now synonymous with scandal, exploitation, and secrets. But when his house of cards finally fell, many of these powerful figures emerged unscathed, untouched by justice. But how did Epstein's dark empire thrive for so long? And why did the world's elites escape accountability?
He was arrested. Then the opportunity came up to sort of get rid of him.
Stick around as we uncover the shocking answers and expose the cracks in a system built to protect the privileged. Born in Brooklyn in 1953, Epstein displayed early signs of ambition and cunning. He dropped out of college but charmed his way into a teaching position at an elite private school, where he made his first important connections. One of these was Alan Greenberg, the CEO of Bear Stearns, who offered him a job at the investment bank. With time, Epstein's career in finance skyrocketed, despite a series of controversies, ultimately leading him to establish his own financial firm, J. Epstein & Company, catering exclusively to billionaires. Now, he was no ordinary financier. He cultivated relationships with some of the most powerful people in the world, including former US Presidents Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, British Royal Prince Andrew, and billionaire Leslie Wexner, who granted Epstein unprecedented control over his financial empire. His charm, intelligence, and promises of lucrative returns made him a trusted figure among the elite. He used these connections to shield himself from scrutiny, moving seamlessly through high society circles while hiding the dark reality of his life. The allegations, quite staggering. He was accused of orchestrating a vast sex trafficking operation that targeted underage girls, luring them with promises of modeling contracts or financial assistance.
American billionaire and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein has pleaded not guilty to running a sex trafficking ring in which underage girls were allegedly abused.
The world was put on notice that he was a sex offender, and the victims received arrested.
Victims described being flown to his private island, nicknamed Pedophile Island, or to his sprawling properties in Manhattan, Palm Beach, and Paris, where they were sexually exploited by Epstein and his wealthy associates. Among these victims was Virginia Roberts-Giuffre, who, in a 60 Minutes interview, broke down, recalling how her word was shuttered by Epstein.
I was abused by people that I can't even mention here. There's a lot of scars hidden behind those walls. It should be ripped down. It should be burned to the ground. Some of my worst memories are from this place.
But Epstein didn't act alone. His operation relied heavily on others who provided logistical support, recruited victims, and helped manage his empire. The involvement of Ghislaine Maxwell, his closest associate, underscored the systemic nature of his crimes. As Epstein's empire began to unravel, it became clear that his network of enablers played a critical role in allowing his operation to flourish. The question remains, how many more individuals helped, and how many turned a blind eye? You see, Jeffrey Epstein's ability to evade justice for so long was not just a result of his cunning, but a direct reflection of the powerful connections he maintained. His network included some of the most influential figures in politics, business, and royalty. For instance, Prince Andrew, a member of the British royal family, was a regular guest at Epstein's properties, and their association drew scrutiny after photographs emerged of the prince with Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's accusers. And when asked about who he was rubbing shoulders with at Epstein's properties, this is what he had to say.
You have to understand that his house, I described it more as almost as a railway station, if you know what I mean, in the sense that there were people coming in and out of that house all the time. What they were doing and why they were there, I had nothing to do with. So I'm afraid I can't make any comment on that because I really don't know.
Similarly, former President Bill Clinton was a frequent flyer on Epstein's private jet, often referred to as the Lolita Express. Records show Clinton accompanied Epstein on trips to various destinations, though Clinton has denied knowledge of Epstein's illegal activities. Donald Trump's connection to Epstein was also well documented. Trump described Epstein in a 2002 interview as a terrific guy who likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. Although Trump later distanced himself, there's no denying the two shared mutual friends and socialized in overlapping circles. These relationships provided Epstein with status and a shield of credibility. The elite rarely scrutinized one of their own, allowing Epstein to operate without fear of exposure for years. The most glaring example of Epstein's immunity came in 2008 when he struck a controversial plea deal. Despite facing overwhelming evidence of trafficking minors, Epstein pleaded guilty to 2 state-level prostitution charges, receiving a 13-month sentence with work release privileges that allowed him to leave jail for 12 hours a day. Joe Rogan even made a joke about this, showing just how ridiculous this deal was.
Remember, he had that deal where he was on work release, so he could just do whatever he wanted and fuck off for 16 hours a day. Then he had to check into the jail at night.
Yeah.
And who even knows what that means? He might have checked in and just went home again. And it seems like they had set something up for him to make it very easy for him to be incarcerated for what should be a pretty heinous crime.
Alexander Acosta, then a federal prosecutor in Florida, was instrumental in securing this sweetheart deal, reportedly claiming later that Epstein belonged to intelligence. Critics argued that the deal not only minimized Epstein's crimes, but also protected others involved by sealing key documents and halting federal investigations. Epstein's high-powered allies and legal maneuvering ensured his freedom far longer than it should have lasted. With so much power on his side, Epstein's operation thrived. But what happened when the truth finally came to light?
Breaking news, billionaire Jeffrey Epstein arrested on new sex trafficking charges.
His arrest marked a turning point in the public's awareness of his crimes. On July 6, 2019, he was taken into custody at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey upon returning from Paris. Federal prosecutors charged Epstein with sex trafficking and conspiracy, accusing him of exploiting dozens of underage girls, some as young as 14, at his lavish homes in New York and Florida.
Billionaire Jeffrey Epstein is expected to appear in federal court in Lower Manhattan tomorrow following new charges related to alleged sex crimes involving minors.
The indictment detailed how he lured victims with promises of financial help and career opportunities, only to subject them to sexual abuse and further exploitation. The public was outraged, not just by the extent of his crimes, but by the system that had allowed him to evade serious punishment for so long. The arrest even reignited debates over the 2008 plea deal, with many demanding accountability from those who had protected him. Then, on August 10, 2019, Epstein was found dead in his Manhattan jail cell while awaiting trial.
Out of breaking news, sources tell CBS 2 that Jeffrey Epstein, the billionaire financier and convicted sex offender, has died by suicide.
The official cause of death was ruled a suicide, but the circumstances surrounding it raised more questions than answers. Surveillance cameras outside his cell reportedly malfunctioned. 2 guards assigned to monitor him had allegedly fallen asleep and later falsified records to cover their neglect. Most suspicious of all was Epstein's broken hyoid bone, a type of injury more commonly associated with strangulation than hanging. Even professional doctors seem to disagree with the official facts, as stated by Dr. Michael Hunter, who is one of the most preeminent medical examiners in the world.
I believe that the type of ligature and the way it was used could explain the injuries to Epstein's neck. Nevertheless, these fractures are unusual, and I can't rule out strangulation. So, both suicide and homicide are still in play.
These details fueled widespread disbelief and countless conspiracy theories. Was Epstein's silence to protect powerful individuals implicated in his crimes, or was this simply a catastrophic failure of the prison system? The timing and the stakes make it impossible to dismiss the possibility of foul play. But Epstein's death didn't end the story. Instead, it shifted the spotlight to those he worked with. The question remained, what about the elites who had benefited from or facilitated his crimes? The fight for accountability had only just begun. While some of his enablers faced consequences, it became clear that the full extent of his operation and the powerful individuals involved would never truly come to light. For instance, Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's closest associate, was convicted in 2021 for her role in trafficking underage girls, but her sentence paled in comparison to the scope of the crimes. Survivors have consistently named other co-conspirators and high-profile figures, yet many of these individuals remain untouched by the justice system. Despite credible allegations, investigations into figures like Prince Andrew, who settled a lawsuit brought by Virginia Giuffre, have been minimal at best. The lack of accountability is not coincidental. Wealth and influence provide an almost impenetrable shield for the elite. Epstein's fortune enabled him to assemble a team of top-tier lawyers who aggressively silenced survivors with non-disclosure agreements and hefty settlements. These legal strategies not only bought silence, but also discouraged further investigations. Undeniably, his network extended far beyond his personal circle. The names in his infamous Little Black Book and on his flight logs included royalty, former presidents, prominent businessmen, and Hollywood celebrities. Yet, despite survivors pointing fingers at specific individuals, no serious attempts were made to hold these people accountable. This failure raises serious questions. How can a system designed to uphold the law so easily buckle under the weight of money and influence? And why does the justice system fail so completely when it comes to the powerful? While his operations were deeply insidious, what's equally shocking is how many institutions seem to actively suppress or overlook the truth. One glaring example is ABC News, which reportedly shelved a detailed investigative piece on Epstein in 2015. Journalist Amy Robach later admitted that she had extensive evidence, including survivor interviews and photographs, but the network refused to air it, citing fears of backlash and pressure from powerful individuals. This wasn't an isolated incident. Media outlets often tread lightly on stories involving Epstein, likely influenced by his connections to high-profile figures who could impact their bottom lines. Government involvement further complicates the story. There are long-standing allegations that intelligence agencies may have used Epstein's operation as a blackmail tool. His access to powerful individuals, combined with his documented tendency to record their interactions at his properties, has fueled speculation that Epstein was part of a larger covert operation. The suppression extended to the justice system itself. Key documents were sealed, investigations were stalled, and survivors were left without clear answers.
Really, if you think about it too hard, it's scary because this is our government that's supposed to protect us, but has done everything to protect, a pedophile.
Epstein's 2008 plea deal, negotiated under highly questionable circumstances, set the tone for how deeply the system was willing to bend in favor of protecting the powerful. The cover-up exposes the harsh reality of a system designed to serve the privileged at all costs. But anyway, what do you think? Was Epstein's death a cover-up? Let us know in the comments. If this shocked you, wait until you hear about the dark side of healthcare. Click here for that story and more.